Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. It'll soon be a month since thousands of Hoosier GM workers walked off the job, demanding better pay, wages, and agreements with temporary workers. Ahead, the latest on negotiations between the union and GM and the effect it's having on the Indiana economy. Criminal justice reforms are having the unintended consequence of making jail overcrowding worse. Lawmakers are meeting now to discuss possible changes to help the situation.
Building a new jail will accommodate more prisoners, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's more of treating the symptom.
Grain silos are the canvas for a new art project in Putnam County.
The number of people coming by to take pictures, wave, honk, thumbs up, all that stuff like that. So it really has been a centerpiece.
Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. The UAW strike against GM is approaching 1 month. Thousands of Hoosier workers throughout the state are affected. As Samantha Horton reports, labor officials are making appearances in the state to show support for striking workers.
United Auto Workers officials released a statement Tuesday saying a contract proposal from GM failed to meet union members' demands or needs. While union leaders say they're awaiting a response to their counterproposal, AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka spoke with UAW workers in Bedford. The AFL-CIO consists of 55 unions, including the United Auto Workers. The president of the UAW Local 440 says Trumka's visit with workers was an honor.
His message was to them that the members of the AFL-CIO, they have our backs, they're supporting us, and his message to them was one day longer, one day stronger.
Hutchinson says even if negotiations improve between a union and GM, it will still take a while for the strike to end.
If they were to call me today and say, be in Detroit on Saturday, it would still be probably 2 weeks before our members went back to work.
The strike is already the longest labor action GM has faced since the 1970s.
And Samantha joins us for more. You've spoken to a lot of these GM strikers. Tell us a little bit about what's the core of their grievances?
So they have several topics that they're really focusing on. They're pushing for health care issues as well as higher wages. And then the big one I've heard is temporary workers. That's been the big talking point a lot of them have had, talking about trying to get more paths to permanent employment, which would mean better vacation hours for some of them and sick leave possibly that they don't get right now.
So they take a huge pay cut when they're picketing. So are they starting to get, because it's been a month, so you start to wonder, are they getting worried about their finances?
So that's the thing, is the strike has been talked about in these union halls for a while. The leadership has been preparing its members, saying we might go on strike, and it actually has happened, but they've been telling them to financially plan ahead as much as they can, and some have described as preparing for almost a year now for this strike. So a lot of them say they're ready for the long haul. However, as we go into a second month even, questions become, will some look for part-time jobs? And in the past, we've seen some have to make a choice if they're going to cross back over the line and go back into the plants and work.
So let's talk a little bit about GM. They've seen some pretty large margins lately, but the future maybe is not so optimistic. So does GM have the ability to try to meet them someplace to make everyone happy?
Especially because that's the big question. Everyone's really, that's the uncertainty. GM has to figure out where its future is with electric vehicles, and in the auto industry right now that's changing. They're not full, I don't think, we haven't seen a clear path that they've set in motion about exactly where they fully see themselves in the upcoming future. However, UAW members point to 07-08 when they did give up some of their benefits because GM was struggling. So they're saying now that the company is doing better, that they want some of those things they gave up returned to them.
We just have a couple seconds left. How do you see this playing out in the next couple weeks?
I think the big thing's going to be hearing about temporary workers. I think that's going to be what some of them are going to see, because temporary workers will if there's an increase, then that's going to maybe be a question of what's GMC as their future. Is it less optimistic than they might think?
Yeah. We'll continue to cover this. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
A jail overcrowding task force is holding 2 more public meetings this fall to address overcrowding. It's a well-documented problem, and a Central Indiana sheriff says a state law designed to keep low-level offenders out of state prisons is making it worse. Adam Pinsker reports.
Before entering the Johnson County Jail, inmates are scanned using this high-tech X-ray machine to ensure they aren't bringing any contraband into the jail. Once inside, every inmate's movement is monitored through this control room at all times. But even with all that technology, jailers can't detect what's going on inside the minds of these inmates.
Jails should not be a location where you put people with mental health issues. There needs to be other treatment centers that these folks can go.
Johnson County Sheriff Dwayne Burgess says he's seen more inmates with mental health issues enter his jail, and the issue is taxing jail deputies and medical professionals who work in this facility, originally constructed in the 1970s, and now has capacity for 322 inmates.
We've been as high as 458, and we have struggled with those numbers for the last few years.
Sheriff Burgess says another issue contributing to the overcrowding stems from a bill passed 5 years ago that directs low-level, nonviolent offenders be housed in county jails rather than the state facilities, so-called Level 6 inmates. The State Department of Correction reimburses counties $37.50 per Level 6 inmate. The per diem will increase to $40 this July. The Sheriff's Association recommends that amount be raised to $55, but lawmakers have balked at that idea.
We have to house those people, and we have to pay for their meals, their medical, their clothing, water, electric, mattresses. There's a whole host of things that people do not even think about what we pay for when we house somebody in a county jail.
Just to give you an idea of how bad the jail overcrowding is here in Johnson County, you can see some inmates are having to sleep on the floor. Now, the sheriff is addressing this issue. They're planning a 258-bed expansion of the jail starting this winter, but adding beds isn't the only solution to the problem.
If it's a nonviolent crime or somebody's 2 or 3 days from their sentence being finished, yes, we've gone to judges to work with us to try to decrease that level.
No violence, no weapon, and the bail sentence.
Earlier this year, the state legislature assembled a bipartisan task force to find longer-term solutions for jail overcrowding. Lawmakers say they've heard the same concerns from county sheriffs all over the state.
I've heard from different folks that, our jails are serving as detox centers. I've heard, from different folks about, how mental health is a huge problem.
The task force will examine whether the number of inmates not posting bail or whether sentencing guidelines are contributing to the jail population increase.
Building a new jail will accommodate more prisoners, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's more of treating the symptom.
Sheriff Burgess says he wants the policymakers in Indianapolis to visit his jail and see the conditions for themselves before making any more decisions.
You can read books, you can read paperwork all day, but till you view it with your own eyes, you haven't a clue.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
The man convicted of killing Bloomington resident Jill Bierman has been ordered to be released by a federal judge. The judge ruled Monday that John Myers received ineffective counsel from attorney Patrick Baker at his trial. Bob Zaltzberg was the editor of the Herald-Times when Bierman disappeared. He sat down with me to explain the impact of her murder and what this ruling could mean for the community. So Bob, you covered this whole Jill Bierman story for a long amount of time. Can you tell us a little bit of the backstory of that?
Yeah, Jill Bierman went out on a bike ride. She was 19 years old. She was a student at IU. She'd grown up in Bloomington and been a student in the school system here. On the morning of May 31st of 2000, and she was never seen again. So it was a real surprise and upsetting disappearance. It became pretty apparent that there had been some foul play involved. Her bicycle was found, and it was It had been hit, it was mangled pretty good, but she was never found. So police searched for her, individuals in the community searched for her, and there was a theory, a working theory about what had happened to her, and it led to Salt Creek actually being drained. They thought her body was out there. Some people that they were looking hard at for this crime had said that they had dumped her body in Salt Creek and that police could find her there. That creek was drained and they never found anything, didn't find enough evidence to support the fact that she'd ever been there. A couple years later, it was in 2003, her body was found in Morgan County, which was a long way away from Salt Creek, and so that sort of changed the direction of the investigation. 2006, a grand jury was called in Morgan County and came back with an indictment against John Myers, who then went to trial and was convicted of the murder of Jill Bierman.
And recently now, making news is the fact that he might be released.
A judge has now ruled that he didn't get a fair trial because he had insufficient counsel, and there's a 147-page ruling that has numerous points about where his attorney had let him down, and so he had filed a habeas corpus filing, and the judge ruled that yes, he didn't get effective counsel and that he should be released. There's an appellate process, an appeals process, and that's what we're going to be under for the next, I think, 120 days.
But this was a surprise because there have been other judges that have looked this over and have found that the case was correct.
There was a sense that this was over, that there was some finality to this really sad situation. So I think it was a surprise to everybody, including and probably especially Eric and Marilyn Bierman, Jill's parents. It's sort of shocking and I think disappointing to those. Of course, everybody wants justice to be done, and if Mr. Myers did not have a fair trial and isn't responsible for the death, I think people want to know that. But you know, the idea that this really sad case had been concluded and now several years later it's going to be reopened or could very well be reopened is just sort of a disconcerting turn of events.
And Bob, you've covered this for so many years. How has this affected the community of Bloomington and the outskirts of Bloomington?
The disappearance of Jill Bierman was a huge story in Bloomington just because she was a 19-year-old kid who'd grown up here. People knew her parents, they knew her, and all of a sudden she was missing and she was a victim of foul play and people knew it. And she had just been out on a bicycle ride. So that was sort of the first really big indication that it was very fearful for people who were living here. And then, you know, you fast forward to the Lauren Spear case. I think that was 13 years later. That was another case that just really sent terror through a lot of people in the community, that a young woman could just disappear and nobody would know what happened to her for a matter of years. You know, Jill Bierman's body was found and it was determined that she was murdered, but it took 3 years to find her body. Of course, Lauren Spear hasn't been found yet. And those kind of things happen, and people just wonder, you know, are young women safe in the community? And it has an effect on everybody.
The Morgan County prosecutor plans to meet with the family of the victims and investigators before making that decision. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. The humble grain silo gets a colorful makeover in Putnam County. And a new center in Indiana is working to develop drugs to take Alzheimer's head-on. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
$10,000.
15? 15, you think?
20, 21,000?
600.
20.
18 fine.
24.
It's at least 40.
Look at it.
4,500,000.
650.
20.
650.
This textile would be worth about $500,000.
$500,000?
No way.
I knew it's just a blanket.
Laying on the back of a chair. Well, sir, you have a national treasure.
Wow.
A national treasure. Congratulations.
I can't believe this.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Religious conservative groups faced off in court this week against the state in 4 Hoosier cities over a change to the state's Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or RFRA. Reporter Brandon Smith joins us to explain the history of RFRA and what this latest case means. Brandon, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Joe.
So first, let's catch us up on the history of this act and how we got to this hearing.
So this goes all the way back to 2015. In a response to the legalization of same-sex marriage by the U.S. Supreme Court, Indiana conservative groups wanted to bolster their religious freedom defenses in court hearings against government laws and regulations. And they passed what was called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was that more stringent court defense. But there was a national backlash because many perceived that it was basically a license to discriminate, particularly against the LGBTQ community. So lawmakers, just 7 days after they passed RFRA, passed the so-called fix, which clarified that RFRA couldn't be used to deny service to someone based on their innate characteristics like age, sex, or sexual orientation or gender identity. The religious conservative groups didn't like that. They thought that flew in the face of what they were trying to accomplish. And so that year they filed this lawsuit against both the state and the RFRA fix, and then 4 human rights ordinances in communities across the state. It's taken us all the way till now to finally get a hearing in that case.
So Brandon, what do these conservative groups want out of this case?
They want the RFRA fix thrown out. They feel like it strips away their rights and they want it removed so basically they can discriminate against the LGBTQ community. That's what a lot of this court fight this week was about. The religious conservative groups say, yes, we discriminate, we want to discriminate, and this law isn't letting us do that. And the cities and the state are actually arguing, well, there's no evidence that you discriminate, so this case should be thrown out.
So Brandon, we just have a few seconds. What's next in this?
Well, there's no timetable, unfortunately, for the judge's ruling, but that'll be the next step, whenever the judge weighs in.
All right, Brandon, thank you very much. Both sides of the abortion debate are waiting to see if the Supreme Court adds new disputes over state abortion regulations to its election year docket. And one of the most significant of those pending appeals involves abortion regulations in Indiana. The Indiana mandate would force women to undergo an ultrasound at least 18 hours before having an abortion. An appeals court found that new law would impose lengthy travel and additional expenses on some women. More than 2,200 sets of preserved fetal remains found in the Illinois garage of a late Indiana abortion doctor have been returned to Indiana. Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill said the remains found last month in Illinois were transferred this week to the St. Joseph County Coroner's Office. He says they'll be given the decency of a burial that they deserve. Indiana's governor will appoint the next leader of the State Department of Education in 2021, and lawmakers are considering getting rid of the State Board of Education. Only a handful of states don't have a State Board of Education, and House Education Committee Chair Bob Baining proposed an idea this week that would nix Indiana's. He wants to merge 3 state boards into one.
They would report then to this Commission on Lifelong Learning so that this focus would always be kept in mind.
The board manages a significant number of school issues, including accountability grades, virtual schools, and school turnaround efforts. Indiana's current schools chief, Jennifer McCormick, has cited an unhealthy governance structure as a key reason she's leaving the position after 1 term. Legal online sports betting is up and running in Indiana a little more than a month after the state's casinos started taking game wagers. Mobile wagering is expected to ultimately seize most of the state's sports betting market. A report for the State Gaming Commission projected about 2/3 of sports bets will be done online within a few years. Betting is not allowed on high school or youth sporting events or esports. Activists and outdoor recreation businesses want Indiana to set aside 10% of state forest for old-growth trees. Now, that came out of testimony to lawmakers at a summer study committee this week. But the Indiana Department of Natural Resources says older trees can shade out the younger oak and hickory forests the DNR is trying to cultivate.
Our forest is getting older and those trees are getting bigger. It's because we're maintaining that older class. We're not cutting all the big trees. We're cutting medium-sized trees as well as some smaller diameter trees.
The study committee couldn't make formal recommendations on forest management to the state because it didn't have a quorum by the end of the meeting. Indiana University will use part of a nearly $6 million federal grant to monitor a chemical that polluted groundwater at military bases. The Environmental Protection Agency is making research on PFAS a priority. The chemicals have been found in everything from firefighting foams on military bases to fast food wrappers.
Once these chemicals are in the particles and in the rain, they can get deposited into the lakes, into the water, and then eventually absorbed by the living species that are in the water, and then we eventually eat them.
She says PFAS can get into rainwater and then get deposited into the Great Lakes, likely harming fish and people who eat its seafood. Exposure to PFAS has been linked to health problems with the immune system, infant birth weights, and in some cases, cancer. Well, it's been 1 year since journalist Jamal Khashoggi was ambushed and murdered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Khashoggi was a graduate of Indiana State University, and people held a vigil there this week to honor the Washington Post columnist. He was an ardent critic of the Saudi government, and Saudi Arabia's crown prince ordered his murder. One ISU instructor says if she could speak to Khashoggi, she would thank him for his courage and work to highlight human rights issues around the world.
I would hope that I could, tell him I'm sorry that the world is so hard for journalists who are trying to do this difficult work.
The university plans to honor Khashoggi's legacy with the Distinguished Alumni Award next week. Well, the search for pharmaceutical treatments for Alzheimer's and dementia has so far been unsuccessful. But as Jill Sheridan reports, a new drug discovery center aims to change that.
The National Institutes of Health is gifting $36 million to fund the new center, one of two to be established nationwide. The Indiana University School of Medicine will partner with Purdue University to develop research tools and technologies to identify new treatment options. Alan Pakowitz will lead the center. He was previously the vice president of discovery chemistry research at Eli Lilly.
We're learning a lot more about individual patients and their unique genetic profiles and the diversity of patients, which may help us understand, how to combat the disease in subsets of patients.
The 5-year grant will fund up to 20 new positions. Palkowitz says new studies will focus on specific proteins and genes associated with the disease.
That's teaching us a lot about the origins and the progression of disease that go beyond where a lot of efforts have focused, which is really on the advanced stages of disease, where it may be too late to have an impact.
The IU School of Medicine is already home to a number of other dementia-related studies and initiatives. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Jill Sheridan.
Well, the final beam has been laid for the upcoming Indiana University Health Regional Academic Health Center. The center will house a cancer center and women's center, along with the Academic Health Sciences building, which will consolidate most of the academic health science programs at IU.
Nearly 100 faculty and 1,000 students will call the education building their new home. The clinical education programs of medicine, nursing, social work, clinical psychology, and speech and hearing sciences will move out of aging and outdated spaces.
The center is expected to receive its first patient on November 21st of 2021. The Columbus Bike Share program will be discontinued by the end of the year. Low ridership has plagued the bike share program to the point that sponsors pulled their funding. Mayor Jim Linup says in Indianapolis, riders were 20% local to 80% tourists.
The understanding was that in Columbus we would not get those numbers. And in fact, the expectation was that the percentages would be flipped, that it'd be 80% locals and 20% tourists, and the 80% just never showed.
Linup says the city will work with the vendor to find another community to use the bikes and bike stations. Well, 4 Putnam County grain silos are now covered from top to bottom with Indiana-inspired artwork. The silos sit at the intersection of US 231 and Veterans Memorial Highway in Greencastle. Mitch Legan has this report on the mural project.
The silos are functional grain storage bins, but on the outside, they provide the perfect canvas for these gigantic murals. They depict a bald eagle, cattle, a violin, and a covered bridge. The New York-based artist Andre Krotsu painted the entire mural with spray paint. Rick Woodall is the owner. He says he's impressed at how 4 grain silos have brought an entire community together.
It also gives people, when they come into Greencastle from the south end, something to look at, something to talk about. It was amazing to me yesterday, the number of people coming by to take pictures, wave, honk, thumbs up, all that stuff like that. So it really has been a centerpiece.
The silos were unveiled over the weekend. Woodall says that now makes Greencastle home to one of the largest murals in the state. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.
As always, more news at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.